Welcome to the SunSystems Purchasing Overview. In this video we will cover some of the features of the purchasing module, including purchase orders, receipt notes, invoice matching, payments, ledger postings, purchase inquiry, reporting, exception processing such as partial receiving, direct invoicing, and how to cancel purchase orders. The purchasing module is fully integrated into the SunSystems application and allows users to seamlessly move between any of the other SunSystems modules, such as financials, fixed assets, corporate allocations, or inventory. Given the appropriate access, users can therefore quite easily be working within multiple modules at the same time. They can go, for example, into purchase order entry in one tab and start creating a purchase order, whilst at the same time they can move into account inquiry, for example, to check the balance on the account for the supplier that they're working with, and they can open up another tab to open up inventory inquiry if they want to check stock balances. In addition to being able to work across multiple tabs, users can also undock the tabs to create a separate application instance, which allows users to position each instance across multiple monitors if required. So here I've just undocked the inventory inquiry tab, and I can also undock the account inquiry tab. So now I have multiple instances of Sun all within the same application area. But I can then drag each window to a separate monitor if I require, if users have multiple monitors. So ultimately, this type of integration allows users to be a lot more efficient and more productive using SunSystems. SunSystems is fully Sarbanes and Oxley compliant and has very strong security features that enforce segregation of duty and ensure full audit compliance. In this example, I am logged in as a user that has full access to the system, so we can see all of the functions down here on the menu that I have access to. I'm now going to log out and log in as a different user that has a more restricted access. We will now see that this user has a lot more restricted access to the system. There are only certain purchasing functions that this user has been given access to. Same with ledger functions. Only certain order fulfillment functions. And we can see on here that other modules have been restricted, such as fixed assets, corporate allocations, and inventory. So this user therefore has a lot more restricted access than the previous user. In addition, users can be prevented from carrying out certain actions within functions throughout SunSystems. For example, one user may be able to create a journal but not post it, while another has the permission to create and post. And in the case of purchase orders, one user may be restricted from confirming and printing purchase orders, and those actions granted only to users with greater authority or responsibility. As we can see here on the screen, the confirm line and all actions have been grayed out or disabled for this particular user, as well as the print function. Security in SunSystems is extremely granular and goes all the way down to a particular data record. So you can prevent users from accessing certain accounts or certain analysis codes within the system. This is all controlled through data access group security, but it emphasizes how strong the security is within SunSystems. We will now have a look at the purchase order function. Purchase orders are created using purchase types similar to journal types that define the processing rules and stages that apply to the purchase order. For example, there can be a purchase type for inventory purchases, services, fixed assets, or capital items. An example purchase order is shown on the screen. In the header section, we have the reference that is auto-generated but can also be manually entered if required for certain purchase types. The supplier is selected from a list of available suppliers. A second reference field is available to store the additional references such as quotation reference or requisition reference. Supplier address details are also shown, and the user has the ability to enter comments on the purchase order that can be printed on the purchase document if required. Other details include an attachment link, contact information, and order by address details, as well as audit details. Order totals are also shown for all currencies, and different totals can be displayed for different purchase types. One of the key strengths of SunSystems is how easily entry forms can be configured to match the needs of the end user to optimize data entry and ensure a minimum amount of keystrokes or mouse clicks are required. This current tab shows us all of the purchase lines entered in a grid, but the Form tab shows us all of the relevant purchase line information for each transaction line. Each view has its own benefits for data entry and purchase order review. Additional purchase line information can be organized across one or more tabs, depending on how much information is required for any given purchase order type or form. On the general purchase order form, we have information relating to requisitions in a case when an order has been created from a requisition. Tabs that show the line values in base currency as well as in US dollar currency. Item supplier details are also shown if applicable for the items. Date information is organized on the Dates tab, showing information relating to order dates, delivery dates, and due dates. Item master details can be viewed from another tab. Audit details are also available, showing original quantity, any quantity that has been cancelled, as well as any outstanding quantity. The status details are also available that show how far each transaction line has progressed in the procurement cycle. That is, if it has been received, is available for invoicing, or has been fully invoiced. Certain line information is required for all purchase lines, such as item code and quantity. However, each purchase type can have a different set of value labels that determine what amounts, units, or rates are required and need to be calculated for that particular purchase type. For example, on the general purchase order type, standard values such as quantity, unit price, and subtotal amounts are being calculated. But in addition, discount tax and expanded withholding tax are also calculated. If required, other values can easily be added and calculated, such as freight, duty, and shipping costs. However, charges that are not specific for each purchase line can simply be entered on a separate line. An account code can be specified during order entry, but account codes can also be associated with item codes or purchase types, so that specific accounts are posted to during processing of those items or types. This can greatly reduce user error and posting to incorrect accounts during order and invoice entry. Up to 10 analysis codes can be entered for each purchase order line. Business rules can assist with defaulting or forcing entry of certain analysis codes or analysis code combinations, and form defaults can also be set so that users don't have to rekey analysis codes that have been entered once for any subsequent lines. This can greatly reduce data entry errors and also ensures a much better data integrity and quality. When a purchase order has been confirmed, it can be printed directly from the purchase order form by clicking the Print All button. The order can then be verified before being printed or emailed to the supplier. When clicking Exit or New Order, the system will initiate a ledger posting to the financials ledger. a message will appear on the screen to indicate the journal number and the ledger the journal has been posted to. In this example, Journal 86 has been posted to the commitments ledger and can be viewed by running journal inquiry in that ledger. In this example, we see the supplier being credited and P&L accounts debited. An exchange differential transaction has also been posted to balance the US dollar amount. We will now take a look at receiving. On the order entry form, the receipt status will show all lines that are available for receiving. For ease of processing, purchase order lines can be received directly from the purchase order function, but can also be received through the receipt note entry function if greater segregation of duty is required. To receive the order lines, we simply click the Receive Items button. All lines available for receiving are displayed, but the user can choose which lines are to be received. All of the selected transaction lines are added onto the receipt note form, but the user may want to update the supplier delivery reference or received quantities, as the case would be for partial receiving. Some items may require inspection and will therefore have to be inspected before the receipt note can be completed. We'll click on the Inspect All to open up the inspection form, and from here we can specify the quantities that have passed inspection, that is accepted, or for those that have been rejected, we can enter the rejected quantity in here, and then also specify a reason code as to why they have failed inspection. We're going to accept all quantities for this example and continue. Click Complete All. It now tells us that the inspection is complete for these items, so we can now click Finish All to close all of the transaction lines and complete the receipt note. When we hit Exit, the system will go ahead and post the accrual posting to the ledger and reverse the commitments. A message will appear on the screen indicating the journal number for the actual ledger, that is the accrual posting, and also the journal number for the commitments ledger, which is the commitments reversal. If we now look back at the purchase order form, we can see that on the Audit Details tab, the transaction quantity that is outstanding is showing against the first line, but the second line has been fully received, and therefore on the status it is now showing us that it is available for invoicing and is fully received, whereas the first line is only part received, but the quantities that have been received are available for invoicing. We will now move on to purchase invoice matching. Purchase invoice matching ensures that all order and receipt note details tie back and match the purchase invoice received from the supplier. To avoid rekeying all of the transaction details onto the invoice, you can generate or copy all of the details from the order and receipt note, if applicable, onto the invoice. This is done by clicking Generate New Invoice and searching for the invoice lines you want to add onto the invoice. SunSystems allows you to add multiple orders or receipt notes onto a single invoice. Similarly, you can also create a receipt note that consists of order lines from multiple purchase orders. The system has now added all of the order lines onto the invoice, and we can proceed with keying in the invoice number. The system will check for duplicate invoice numbers, and if it finds an invoice number that has already been posted to the ledger before, it will give you an error message. You now have the option to check all of the invoice details, and if required and applicable, you can update the unit price, the account codes, or even the analysis codes if required. In addition, values such as discount percentages and discount amounts, tax amounts can also be updated. We can now move ahead with matching all of the invoice lines. The system will display a screen that shows us all of the invoice lines that are ready to be matched against all of the order lines that are available for matching. We will select the appropriate lines and continue to match the invoice lines to the order lines. Once all of the lines have been matched, we will get a message telling us that there are no more lines available for matching. Once everything has been checked and verified, we can now proceed with confirming all of the invoice details, which will close the invoice lines. And once we click exit, the system will go ahead and post the payables to the financial ledger and as well reverse the accruals. A message is displayed on the screen showing us the journal numbers for both the payables and the accrual reversal. We can check the financials inquiry to view the journal details as they've been posted, and we can see that the supplier has been credited, but there was a withholding amount on the invoice, so the relevant withholding amount has been withheld from the supplier and the difference posted to their account. All of the other analysis codes are also posted as required by each account code. This concludes our purchase invoice matching overview, and we will now continue with processing the payment. There are a number of ways transactions can be processed for payment in SunSystems. You can use the payment run function, which is a batch function that selects all transactions outstanding for payment that match a predefined selection criteria based on the payment profile code used. There is also the payment run selection inquiry that allows you to select outstanding transactions for payment based on their payment method or a range of account codes, dates, due dates, or other filter criteria. We can then expand all of the records just to show all of the invoices outstanding for all suppliers, or we can collapse them just to view the total outstanding for each supplier. We have the ability then to drill down into a particular supplier and select all of the invoices or a particular range of invoices that we want to pay. Those invoices selected are then passed through the payment run process. So to demonstrate how the payment run function works, we select a profile code and we select the dates that are applicable to the payment run, such as the base date for payment, the payment date itself, and we also provide the payment account and any input discount account if that's applicable for this payment run. And we click print, and then this is going to generate us the payment listing report so that the transactions can be validated before the checks are printed. The payment document window will open up and take us to the printing of the checks, and before that we get another copy of the payment listing appear on the screen, so we can validate that all of the transactions that we expect to be paid are included on the payment run. Can accept those defaults, print, and then we can send the checks directly to the printer or bring them onto the screen, and in this case we'll just send them directly to the printer. And on the document tab we can have a look and see what the next check number is going to be. We will now click OK to generate the checks and send them to the printer. A window appears on the screen indicating that the checks have been successfully sent to the printer and a copy of the remittances have been output into our reports directory. If we look into the account inquiry for the supplier, we can see that the payment transaction has been generated and all of the invoices allocated and paid. This concludes our overview of the payment run functionality. The purchase inquiry function allows users to view and process purchase order transactions. The inquiry has a number of parameters on it that allow the user to search for specific transactions based on parameters such as transaction reference, purchase type, supplier code or supplier name, analysis codes, and more. In addition, users can easily view transactions based on status and can therefore extract all open purchase orders, orders awaiting receiving, or all orders received but awaiting to be invoiced. The transactions are initially collapsed to show the order total for each purchase order, but can be expanded to show the full order detail. Purchase order details can then be viewed from within the inquiry, but users can also open up the original purchase order to view the full purchase order details by clicking View Order. It is also possible to further process purchase orders from within the inquiry, which is useful when a batch of purchase orders have to be confirmed, printed, or even approved. The purchase orders are selected for review and then passed to a batch program for further processing. Any number of inquiries can be created in SunSystems using the Filter Designer tool. Filter Designer allows users with appropriate access to create additional inquiries that can better meet their needs for viewing and processing transactions within SunSystems using simple drag-and-drop functionality. Inquiries also form part of the security within SunSystems by providing users with access to specific records or transactions that have been deemed relevant to their business function. The inquiry function is not specific to the purchasing module and applies to all SunSystems modules. It is therefore possible to create inquiries that provide drill-back functionality between related transactions. For example, due to its tight integration, it is possible to drill from a financial journal all the way back to a purchase order or a purchase invoice. This concludes our overview of the purchase inquiry function. We're now going to talk quickly about some of the reports available within the SunSystems purchasing module. Reports can come from two sources in general. There is the SunSystems reporting services, which are the reports that you're seeing on the screen at the moment. And we also have PM/Q&A listing reports available, and we'll take a look at them right after these reports. But just to mention some of the reports that do come with the system, and they do include reports such as the purchase invoice commitment listing, standard listing, an invoice status listing, an invoice register report, and a purchase order commitment listing, a purchase order listing, an order status listing, a purchase returns listing, and a receipt note listing. There are also reports available canned with PM/Q&A that can be used and modified. These reports extract data directly from the SunSystems purchasing module and into Excel. And here is just a sample of some of the reports that can be created, but these reports would have to be modified and to fit the data structure of the database of the business units that they're extracting data from. On the screen here we have a purchase order listing, Other reports that are available include purchase orders with matched invoices, purchase orders with receipt notes, purchase invoice listing, purchase invoices with matched orders, purchase order listing by supplier, purchase order listing by status, and purchase order status listing. We also have commitments by supplier and another variation on that same report available here as well. There is little difference between reporting from financials and purchasing modules within PM&Q&A. So people that are already familiar with creating reports using PM&Q&A can quite easily create purchasing reports to meet their needs or the needs of the organization. Creating SSRS reports requires a little more knowledge of the reporting software tools, but Infor can always assist with any SSRS report development should that be required. This concludes our quick overview of some of the reports and reporting tools available with the purchasing module on SunSystems. In this section, we're going to take a look at some of the exception processing, such as canceling a purchase order, deleting a purchase order, and copying purchase order transaction lines from one order to another. In addition, we'll look at how direct invoices can be raised, that is, invoices without a purchase order. On the screen, we have a purchase order that has already been created and for a quantity of 20 and another line for a quantity of 11. If we look at the order details, we can see that the second line has been fully received. There is no quantity outstanding. But on the first line, there is a quantity of 10 that has not been received and is outstanding. We are therefore going to cancel this quantity from the order and effectively closing the purchase order. We do this simply by selecting the line and clicking Cancel Quantity. We enter in the total quantity that is being cancelled, and on the line we confirm that quantity. The system will ask us that and inform us that a reason code must be entered when cancelling quantities. We can select that code from the lookup list. And hit OK, and then click Exit. When we return back to the order, we will notice that there is no more quantity outstanding for this order line. When we look at the status, we can see that the entire order is now fully closed. All of the transaction lines are closed. They are fully received and fully invoiced. When we exit from this order, the system will generate an adjustment to the commitments ledger, therefore reversing any quantities or amounts that had been previously posted. In our next example, we're going to look at how order lines can be copied from other orders. This is done by completing the order header and then clicking Action and Generate Transaction Lines. From this screen, we can copy transactions from either purchase orders or purchase invoices, then select the transaction reference, and finally entering or selecting the line number we want to copy. When done, we click Exit to copy the transaction lines onto our purchase order. At this point, we can update the order details as necessary to complete our order. It is also possible to use TransferDesk to copy or generate complete or entire purchase orders from past orders rather than generating one transaction line at a time. The purchasing function also has the ability to create schedule orders. The schedule order function allows users to create orders that are delivered over a period of time for a specified quantity and at a specified interval. Generate the order header as normal and click on Action, Schedule Order, and then complete the schedule order details as required. In this example, we have a particular item code that we want delivered for 100 units over 10 deliveries at a 10-day interval. When we are ready to generate the order, we click on the Generate button, and all of the order lines will be automatically generated onto the purchase order. It is therefore possible to confirm and print individual order lines or submit the entire order schedule to the supplier if required. Items can therefore be received as and when they are delivered. Direct invoices, that is, invoices without a purchase order, can be created within SunSystems. This function can be limited to certain users if required to maintain tight control over all purchasing and invoice activities within the organization. The invoice is created in very much the same way as regular orders and invoices are created, but no matching is required. Approvals can be put in place to restrict the amount that users can post on direct invoices to ensure that all higher value invoices and purchases have an associated purchase order. Items entered on direct invoices are often not available in the standard product catalog or item master. However, as all transactions lines must have an associated item code, items can be created for miscellaneous purchases such as freight, shipping, and other charges. Note that the more general the transaction description or item is, the more difficult it becomes for the organization to analyze any spend against that item. Once the direct invoice is confirmed and approved, it is posted directly to the financials ledger as a payable transaction ready for payment. This concludes our purchasing module overview. Thank you for watching.